bunch of 18 and 19-year-old young men said, no, we're not ready. Let's do it.
I do that every day of my life.
Can you imagine? So today's Monday, right? So
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. So yesterday was the anniversary of D-Day, of the storming of the beaches at Normandy, which is why I have my Navy shirt on. I'm an
You need to lean in more. It just says Nav.
Nav Navy.
My Nav shirt.
and in the monitor here, it's Yvan. But
that was my nickname in high school.
Yeah. But I'm, Air Force vet, son's in the Army. But
you ain't got nobody in the Navy.
I wear the Navy shirt for our friends Bruce and Chuck and many other brothers and sisters in the Army and the Navy. So as these...
They have the best theme song, in my opinion.
Really? I've been only mildly offended by that.
Sorry.
But anyway, it is good. They're all good. So anyway, as they carried the troops over there, I was torn between my 82nd Airborne shirt, which the division was actually
halfway through he was going to change his wardrobe.
They were like Lois and Clark were sort of the spins and change.
We're going to put like a
Lois and Clark. No, I don't think we've had a Lois and Clark reference here.
That's
have we?
very 90s.
That's classic.
You're talking Dean Cain, right?
Of course.
I was a big fan of that show.
Oh my goodness, my daughter Jessie was obsessed.
Lil Stacey was a big fan.
Anyway, so I went with the Navy instead of the 82nd Airborne, mostly because I saw it first. So anyway, nobody really cares about any of that, but...
well, that's par for the course for this podcast.
Yeah, so you asked me before we're going if we were ready, and it caused me to ponder what they must have been asking as they were preparing to disembark. And when you think about these young people, the average age of a soldier in World War II was 26. So if you're talking about a lot of younger men, even younger in Vietnam, much younger as we went along. I think it's older again now, but anyhow, as you see in your mind's eye what took place there, and if anybody's seen Saving Private Ryan, it's horrifically graphic in the opening scenes. Still haven't seen it. And I don't think it's quite as graphic as it.
It's a Mel Gibson movie, so
that's right. Anyway, it's just a horrifically graphic depiction of it, but the realism sets the stage and causes you to understand a little bit of the psychological and emotional thing of what's happening when we're side by side going into this, and then you're gone, right. And then only pieces of you remain. It just was such a bloodbath. And yet, this was a turning point in the war, perhaps the turning point in the war, as the Allies began to take back ground that was lost. Anyway, as we're seeing all this, this has nothing really to do with what we're casting about today. But
again, par for the course.
I'm just marveling at what it must have felt like the next day, right? Yeah. So you've gone through all this. You're still engaged in the battle. I mean, it's not like it went away, but it's not new. When they stormed the beaches, you had an expectation, but you had no real idea of what you were expecting until you have it. Now you've seen it. This absolute deluge of bullets and bombs and just fallen comrades all around you, walking over bodies. It's a horrifying thought, but the mission continues. It doesn't stop. And that, just the mentality that you have to take on in such a battle is so much different than than the ideas of glory that they probably had, as so many would have, dealing with, especially at that time, with a patriotic approach to war and the thought that we're going to win glory for ourselves and for our nation, and long live the red, white, and blue. And now reality is hit, and reality, just in its very nature, tends to jerk us out of anything that fits our comfortable mode, and that's, it's just like the rest of life. I think that's one of the things that's one of the reasons I believe that in Scripture, the Lord uses military pictures very often. And so when we see, this militaristic battle kind of language, I think that's part of the reason, is that it jerks us out of the comfort idea. And so as Christ followers, we so often in our culture, I guess this maybe starts swinging back toward what we're talking about. So often in our culture, we have this consumer Christianity that, we go to an air-conditioned church and when it's hot, and a heated church when it's cold, and we're out of the rain, and we live in a free country so that we can assemble to worship as we please. Even in the midst of a pandemic, we recognize that there are protected, there's a protected status for our religious practice. And so we think of it as, we think of our faith much more like going shopping than like being in a battle. And so when you're in a battle, and again, thinking of the Invasion of Normandy, these are people from extremely disparate, diverse backgrounds. And I remember, going to basic training, and all of these people were all thrown together in one flight. And the Air Force group was called a flight. And so we're all thrown together here, guys from New York City, guys from, Louisiana, from small town here in Michigan, different ages. I was 19. A couple of guys in there were in their late 20s, just all kinds of different things. I had just gotten married. Most of the guys were single. A couple others had been married for longer. Different religions, and we're all smashed together for a purpose, to form us into a unit. And so when you think of what's going on in Normandy, these are guys that outside of this battle, many of them might have hated each other. Different ethnicities and a lot of bigotries that would have come up, different beliefs where, oh man, this guy's a Jew, I hate Jews, or this guy's a Catholic, I hate Catholics, all these different things that people would have. And none of it mattered because there was something bigger. And in the book of Ephesians, Paul is showing us what God is doing in bringing all things together under his kingdom rule in Christ. And one of the major things is it doesn't matter anymore. This Jew-Gentile thing, all of the background stuff from your earthly identity doesn't matter anymore, because you are in something bigger that takes all of those differences and supersedes them and smashes you together and builds out of all of these different shaped living stones one perfect, imperfect temple. So we are together perfected in Christ, but obviously in practice we are anything but perfect. But together God is manifest in the church. And so, as we see all of this big idea stuff in Ephesians, a military picture helps us understand that we can't afford, in the battle that we're facing, and we'll see in chapter 6 of Ephesians that God uses again the language of armor and battle, that we're facing an enemy. We can't afford to think like people sitting at home during peacetime in the comforts that we prefer. We have to get past that. We have to throw the idea of our own consumerism away. And in the church, this consumer culture means we pick and choose. We do the things that we like. We don't do the things that we don't like. In a military setting, in a combat setting in particular, you don't get those options. You do what is before you, period. And you eat the food that you're given. You follow orders. These are the things that you do. We do not approach church that way at all. Family is like that. My youth pastor when I was growing up used to say you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose. You can even pick your friend's nose, but you can't pick your family. And so that's clearly very profound wisdom that he gave to us. But you don't pick your family. Your family is there, and you figure out how to live like family, how to be family, despite all the differences. You have a sister, and you guys are similar in some ways and very, very different in other ways. I have a brother and a sister, and that means we're different in gender as well. We've got all these things that make us alike, that unite us, but they're the differences between us in personality and the things that we enjoy are very, very different. And yet, what unites us is bigger. For us in Christ, the church matters more because we are the body of Christ. And in Christ, being a part of his body, not my church, it's mine in that I belong to it and I feel a sense of connection to it, as a member, but it's his church, and we're all his together as this family, as this body, and Christ is bigger. Christ matters more. So we put our differences aside, and it's no longer about what I want or what you want. And in a sense, that consumerism that we have in church is the overflow of our personal selfishness, the greed that we see in all of our lives, that we're constantly at war, in this battle within ourselves and in the world around us with this consumer culture that's always marketing. And coming from some marketing background, you can understand that. Mm-hmm. This the old sales adage, always be closing. The world around us is in the process all the time of closing the deal, right, to get us to think in worldly terms, to value things here. And when we see, again, we're having this big Pride celebration this month and in our community this week. This is not about, it's just not about equal rights. That's a whole separate issue and not really what we're talking about today. But the Pride focus during this month, at a time when 12 months out of the year is a LGBTQ Pride celebration, right now this is a marketing move. Mm-hmm. This is to get you to buy into this, and a big aspect of it is you feel an emptiness, you feel a void, and here's how you fill that void. Or this particular individual feels a particular way, and we have to fill that. And it's a marketing push that plays on our inherent, universal, ubiquitous, inherent selfishness and greed. We want to please ourselves, and we want to do it more and more.
It's FOMO. It's, essentially what it is.
For those over 40, explain FOMO.
Do you know what it is?
Yes, but I want you to do it.
You're over 40, so. Yeah.
Yes, but Larry's clear. So
Larry's not white, he's clear. Fear of missing out, yes. Which is also...
New Space Jam with LeBron James. Can't possibly be as good, and yet I'm intrigued.
It doesn't exist to me.
Still has Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, let's not get into what they've done to Space Jam.
Or Bugs Bunny.
Or Lola Bunny. Sure about that?
I did not, but I'm afraid to.
Yes. What was I talking about? FOMO, fear of missing out, marketing issue. Because if somebody's doing their job correctly in a marketing team or a campaign team, they are going to make something so exciting and desirable and interesting that even if you wouldn't really care about it or be that interested in it, you don't want to feel like you're being left out of it, or you don't want to miss out on something. So even if it just strikes your intrigue into looking into it, everybody wants to be accepted and included and whatever. Nobody wants to, sit at home twiddling their thumbs while everyone else is having fun. I do, because I'm greatly introverted and social settings give me anxiety. But most people
many comments. I'm just going to sit on them.
Don't want to, you want to know what's going on. There's a square on my head again. Anyway.
That's your nickname in high school.
There's a little square on her head, Stacey. So yeah, that's a big part of it, I think, with not just with Pride, but with anything. People want to know what it is. Mm-hmm. They want to be included in it because it seems fun, right? It seems cool, fun, exciting, woo.
Well, and as we've been seeing with this on a grand scale, this has been coming up with CRT and a number of things recently that when you try to modify your life to fit woke culture or this affirming culture, you can't keep up with it.
That's true. It changes all the time.
And it's always more. Whatever victory you get in this lane, we need more. There's always this hunger for more. And you can't win in that. No. But that's the nature of selling. That's the nature of the devil's recruitment, if you will. The old description of a good salesman could sell ice to an Eskimo, kind of thing, which I'm sure is probably offensive ethnically and on Eskimos. Every possible way.
Sorry to all the Eskimos watching this.
Yeah, and
please tell me if you're an Eskimo watching this. I want to be friends.
Those struggling with ice addictions. But anyway, as we're
it's probably on My Strange Addiction.
It's very possible. I think it's something about chewing ice or something. Anyhow, as we're looking at that idea, that's what the devil does. He's trying to sell us stuff that we don't need. Right. That he gets us to want it because of our sinful selfishness. You ever seen
Wall Street, the movie?
Yes.
Greed is good.
I'm old enough to have seen it when it first came out in the theaters. So,
Gordon Gekko, which is the coolest movie name character of all time. But
yes, and he sells insurance.
Not a great guy.
Oh,
that's Geico. Yeah. If the little Geico lizard gecko would have been in there, that would have been better.
His name's Gordon.
His name is not Gordon.
It is now.
Gordon the Gecko.
I just named him Gordon.
Gordon the Gecko. Hello.
So, welcome to something to talk about.
Greed is good is not
the podcast edition.
We're halfway into the podcast.
Yes, we are.
And we've talked about greed is good.
Very little. So.
Well, again, par for the course for this podcast.
But with all of this idea, that's why in Ephesians 4:28, which my daughter was working on memorizing this morning, we were talking about, it really has three parts to it. Mm-hmm. And as Paul is talking about these three parts, and he says, anyone who's been stealing must steal no longer, but must work doing something useful with their own hands, so that they may have something to share with those in need. There's three elements here, and he's talking very specifically about this greed taking what's not yours, and not earning a living, and so on, and this whole concept of selfishness comes out of this. But it's this is a broad paintbrush that we can paint with, because realistically, it's not just about me stealing your wallet or identity theft or whatever. It's the idea that I want more, and I don't think I should have to work for it, and I don't want to give anybody anything because I want to keep it all for myself. Whether that is wealth or glory or credit or whatever else, that's why we see so much class struggle in human history. We've got haves and have-nots, and the have-nots want to be the haves, so they resent the haves, and they put down the haves, and the haves want to stay the haves, so they're going to oppress the have-nots, and you're going to keep on having this cycle going over and over and over again until sin is gone. And that's why the revolutionary mindset cannot ever fully provide what it promises.
I went into a black hole the other night on Wikipedia. I forget what I started.
It's a dangerous place to be.
But it was
the black hole.
Basically, I saw a YouTube clip of one of the executions of Henry VIII's wives. Obviously not a real one,
okay.
But
live footage
of that. But then I was wondering, how did the royal family, like as we know it today, like where did that come from? So I started doing Ancestry.com, not really, of the royal family, and how it all started and how the descendants went about. And it's so messed up because some of them that were on the throne didn't necessarily come from that line, but they got in there this way and they got in there that way.
All of the European heads of state were pretty messed up.
But when you think about that, just as you mentioned, the power and the things that people went through to get that power is insane. But I think that it would still be done today if that was. I think people.
You want to see crazy? Look at the Russian line sometime. There's
I don't. I recently found out that I thought I was German my whole life. I'm Russian.
Oh, there you go.
My great whatever grandparents were called Volga Germans, and so they were Russian, but they got paid to move to Germany and farm there. But they're really Russian, which I don't like vodka, but I do like the cold. So.
You do like the cold.
I like the cold, and I like
communism. Not so much. Gulags.
Gulags.
Yeah.
What are gulags?
It's the prison camps that they have.
No, I don't like communism.
How about exceedingly long epic novels?
Yes. What do you? I like Anastasia. I like the Romanovs.
Okay, well there you go.
We're
So
talking
you
about
can just write
Anastasia.
into it. Speaking
Anyway,
of
I'm
messed
sorry.
up, check out the Romanovs.
Anyway, but the things that people are willing
This
to
was
do.
relevant at some point, I think.
The things that people are willing to do to get what
Yes.
they want.
To keep what they want, to get what they want, to get more of what they want,
Right,
to
and that's
keep
not
other
just
people
with
from
that's
getting
not
what
just
they
with
want.
something as prestigious as being a royal. That's with like everyday things.
Well, yeah, and that's why when Paul's talking to the Ephesian church, he's talking to them as if stealing is somewhat normal. You know, that
And I
this,
think it is.
That this is a pretty regular thing, and it's not like he makes some big deal about it. Among you, there are some who have been thieves, and they should stop. This is just like casual conversation. Look, all y'all who've been stealing, y'all knock it off. That's not okay.
I wish that's
right?
exactly how I have it.
That's the country translation. So anyhow, as he's doing this,
Y'all need to quit.
he needs to go. There are three real elements involved here. The first one is don't take what doesn't belong to you. You know, that's a big thing of not just stealing your wallet,
Right.
but anything that doesn't belong to me by actual right, not by the justification in my mind, not
This is
you
mine.
have it, I
Right.
deserve it more than
Right.
you do,
Right.
so I'm going to take it, which we do all the time.
Yes.
We do that lots of times. But if it's not mine, hands off, leave it alone, right? Including God's glory. Stop stealing God's glory, but that's a sidebar we don't have time for. But stop stealing. Stop taking things that don't belong to you. The second part, you need to earn. So you need to work to earn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Work to earn something. And the Protestant work ethic comes
That's
out of
relevant
this.
today.
Well, yeah, in a world where we're paying people not to work. And on top of that, we live with the expectation that people owe us a living, that employers exist so that we can have jobs, which they do not. Employers exist because they want to do the thing that they do and make a profit. And if they don't do those things, they don't exist any longer, which means we don't have jobs. But no employer exists for you. Not for you to
Fun
have
fact,
a job.
half of all small businesses close within the first year.
Yes, I've lamented the undercapitalization of most businesses in our area for a long time. If they're not prepared to operate in the red for a minimum of 3 years, you're not going to make it. But anyhow, because I have so much authority and wisdom. So, #sheesh, that was sarcasm, Sheldon. More pointless pop culture references. As we are looking at this, that second part of actually work to earn has to do with our own personal self-respect. I can look myself in the mirror and know that I put in a hard day's work, and there is something that God has wired into us that excuse me, that we can see. Our new friend Farmer Dan, who's been in IT forever, said the thing about this computer world, that's where I make the money to be able to afford to farm. This is great in many ways, but it sucks the energy out. It doesn't put it back in. And there is, it's not that you're not working, you're doing a legitimate thing. That's a legitimate job, but there's something satisfying about going out, putting in a hard day's work at the farm that you own, to do all these things. So regardless of whether you're working for the man or you're working for yourself or however it plays out in your life.
Working 9 to 5.
Working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. So
Barely getting by.
it's all taken and no given, which reminds me again of Ephesians 4:28. So as you're actually working and you know that you have done your best, you have given of yourself, and you can be proud of the excellence of your work, whatever that excellence is, whatever field.
Even if you're writing about cat
There,
bandits.
it's yeah, good example. That is, well, when we do it excellently to the glory of God, we can have a certain healthy, I'm going to use the word pride, though it can be a confusing word, but a certain self-respect that can come from that. I know I did well. I know I did the best that I can do, and I can have a satisfaction in that. When I do that for the glory of God, then my excellence is not for me, it is for Him. The benefits of self-respect come out of that, but the honor goes to the Lord. So the third element of that is that my working to earn is not self-driven. It's not just so I can get more stuff, so I can be the richest man in town like
George Bailey,
like Henry Potter thinks he is. Yeah, we want to be more in this idea of George Bailey. By the way, greatest movie ever made. But
I just want Jimmy Stewart to narrate everything.
Yes. So as you watch that movie unfold, in particular, It's a Wonderful Life for the uninitiated.
There ain't nobody that hasn't seen It's a Wonderful Life.
I didn't see it till I was in college, so
Well,
there are lots of young people that come up every year that have never seen it, because there is no television anymore in a real sense, in the old sense. So now you have to choose to watch movies, not just have them come up in the TV schedule. But I digress again. The idea here is that George Bailey had all these dreams that he wanted, and when he has his little breakdown, has his little selfish fit, he has a moment, but his entire lifetime has been dedicated to helping others, which is what ultimately makes him the richest man in town. Now, this is speaking to the ancillary benefits of generosity, but that's not Paul's motive in writing about generosity, and it's not the motive for the Christ follower, so that I can be the richest person in town, I can have all these friends, and people can recognize what a good person I am. Quite the opposite. For the Christ follower, as Jesus said in Matthew 5, when our light shines in this darkened place and people recognize it like a city on a hill, because you can't miss it. We're not trying to gain attention for ourselves, but by living a Christ-like life in a world that is anything but, God gets the glory. People see those good deeds and they glorify our Father in heaven. And that's the point. To give God glory. So if our driving force is to love God with our whole being, right? Matthew 22, Deuteronomy, Mark has it as well in a different version. as we look at this idea of the greatest commandment being to love the Lord our God with everything we have, nothing before God, period. It's number one on the list, on the top 10 list of commandments. Then that overflows from us with a love for those who bear God's image, that God loves. If God loves you, then I love you, right? And he loves those that bear his image. Now we can debate the universality of that love, whether God loves the wicked and so on, and I think very often that's a matter of semantics. It's important semantics, but it's still semantics. But God does love his image bearers as a race, and he has loved the world, us, so much that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him would not perish, but would have eternal life. So if we love God, then we demonstrate that by loving others. As Jesus said, quoting the Old Testament, we love our neighbor as ourselves. So in this whole love God, love people thing, our approach to work, our approach to the concept of wealth, our approach to human value and worth cannot be rooted in a secularist, humanist, anthropocentric kind of worldview. It has to be rooted in the fact that we belong to him, right? God first. Because we love God, we love people. Therefore, when I look at the nature of wealth, what does it mean to own? What does it mean to possess? I no longer view myself as an owner of things, but as a steward of God's resources, that he owns all of it. Therefore, since I'm stewarding it for him, he has graciously given me the privilege of using and enjoying it, but I use it according to his will, for his purposes, for his glory, in the way that he would use it. If I start letting my view of wealth fall into the man-made economic systems that we have developed, and we think, well, capitalism or socialism or communism, and all of these things, I'm viewing things from a human perspective that says, I know better than you and I need to fix it because you can't fix it, rather than God knows better than all of us, and he says, love one another. And therefore, because I love one another, I tend to see now wealth the way God sees wealth. It's a tool. It's something that is given to us to manage for him by his design, according to his rules, in such a way that people are blessed by it and God is glorified. So when Jesus looked at wealth, he didn't hate it. He wasn't opposed to it. He didn't condemn the rich. He hung out with rich people. He hung out with poor people. He spent most of his time with a poor crowd. He hung out with religious people. He hung out with hookers and crooks, and dirty politicians, and you name it. He never ignored sin, but he was never impressed by someone's status,
right?
And he was never coveting someone's status. So, Jesus went around as essentially, if you will, a homeless person, an itinerant preacher. Could he have parlayed his popularity into wealth and power? Absolutely, for sure. But he wouldn't have been Jesus at that point.
Throughout history, don't you get the vibe, and maybe this is just the narrative that we've been fed, do you get the vibe that often wealthy people or people in power are often portrayed as like the bad guys? I think even in the Bible you see
particularly in the 20th century,
right? But even in the Bible, when you think of like the priests and the Pharisees, or you think they're the people that are kind of quote unquote in power, and they're the bad guys. That's how we see them anyway.
I think that's how, again, growing up in the 20th and 21st century here, I think we're seeing a lot of that through our contemporary lens. I think a Jewish person reading the Bible at that time did not, I don't think it, I mean, it just, they would see wealth as a blessing. That was how it was seen.
Right, I see.
And so,
I get that.
So the wealthy were often seen as those being blessed by God. That's one of the reasons David laments the way he does in the Psalms. Why do the wicked prosper? God, you're the distributor of wealth. It's not the government. It's the Lord. So why are you giving blessings to these wicked people? That doesn't make any sense to me. And that was the struggle that he had, because it seems to be indicating God's approval, which it in some cases did and in some cases didn't, and that was one of the messages that we see throughout it. But Jesus kind of overturned that, and the reason that he said a lot of the things that he did was because the prevailing mindset was that wealth is good, wealthy people are better people, and even in the New Testament, that's why James is writing to the church saying, stop giving partiality to rich people. Stop acting like they're better. You save the best seats in the house for them. You want to give them special favors. Aren't they the ones that are oppressing you anyway?
We do that.
We
with
do that
celebrities
a lot.
And
Absolutely.
people. They are special. They
Right.
get perks. And
Well,
they get, whatever.
how excited do Christians get every time you hear a whisper that this celebrity or that celebrity is a Christ follower?
Right.
And most of the time, maybe I'm being a little bit cynical when I say most of the time. Most of the time, I would say it's not true. That somebody's got some inkling of some churchiness that they picked up from the background, and there are absolutely strong, regenerate, born-again believers in all walks of life, including government and Hollywood, as hard as that can be to believe sometimes. But just because somebody in a position of fame and celebrity or power makes claims or says things, that doesn't mean anything. It
Right.
means that they think that that's best for their image right now. When they're willing to give up things, then you might have some more credence for it. Dean Cain's an example that was willing to give up his acting career basically to stand for what he believes in. Now, I don't know everything about his particular faith. I'm not pretending to. This isn't really about Dean Cain, but the reality of celebrity status is that it is fading. It's like a flower in the heat. And when we hunger for those things, and that's where greed comes up in more than monetary things. Mm-hmm. It comes up in status, reputation, power, all the things that money can buy. And we fail to hold it loosely. We fail to see it the way The Lord sees it. And if we're going to get this right, to live in a way that's worthy of our calling, we need to actually train our brain. We need to choose in our thoughts to value wealth the same way the Lord does, to see wealth from an eternal perspective, as a tool, as a means to an end, not as something that we should hunger for because it's all passing. We are managers, we are stewards of God's resources. And when we approach it that way, that fits someone who belongs to God in Christ, rather than someone who is, a squatter in the kingdom, who thinks that I'm going to take possession of this. That we're not owners, we are managers. And I need to then actually, again, convince my mind. I need to train my brain to prioritize God's glory over my need to understand how he's going to provide for me. So when Jesus goes from you can't serve both God and money directly into don't worry, it's because money is one of the things we worry about so much. I don't know, I need to make more money. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. And in our society, that means I don't know how I'm going to, pay ridiculous amounts of gas for my fancy car, or, get a better cable package. And even, and again, I'm speaking to the majority of folks who think we're in poverty because we struggle a little bit and maybe we have to reduce our internet service. That is not true poverty. Now, there are lots of people who are in true poverty, but in both cases, whether we are rich or whether we are poor, just like Paul said, when I learn to be content in Christ with whatever lot God has given to me, then I find that I can do just fine in the rest of this. Not, the peace doesn't come from chasing after the peace. The peace comes from being content in whatever state I find myself, because this is God's plan and God will provide. So when I prioritize God's glory over my need to comprehend what God is doing and how he's going to make this work, then that reflects my status as his child. It's a picture then of a life that is worthy of the calling, of living in accordance with that. And then I think the last general idea that we need to keep in mind is that I need to let my love for God overflow in generosity toward others. Again, taken directly from Jesus, you love God, and the second command is like it. It's really the expression of the first. I love God, I love others. The 10 Commandments, the first 4 are about loving God. The last 6 are about loving others and getting this right. How do I interact in this world? I don't lie to people. I don't steal from people. I don't covet the things that somebody else has. I don't kill people. I don't murder. All of these, I don't steal somebody else's mate. I don't commit adultery. So all of these things are connected. When I'm worshiping God rightly, when he is first and foremost in my life, I can't do these other things. At least I can't be comfortable with them. So in the moments, because we are inconsistent people, in the moments when I let God become second priority in my life, then I do dumb things. Or I guess the reverse of that, it probably explains it better. In the moments that I'm doing these dumb things, if I'm, greedy, or I'm dishonest, or I have unwholesome talk come out of my mouth, or I'm overcome by my anger, in those moments I have let those things usurp my love for God. And now I'm not loving God with my whole heart. I'm loving this, whatever it is, the wealth, the anger, the feeling I get from this, more than I'm loving him. So that's how those things interact.
We will stop there because we're over. We're a little...
We are?
We are.
We're shorter than normal.
A little bit. We were kind of all over the place today, but we got there.
I don't know where we got, but we got somewhere.
We got somewhere.
We did park the car.
Thanks for joining us for the ride. Hope you brought...
On these Michigan roads.
Hope you brought snacks. We have one more little mini-series within this series next week, so join us for Unwholesome Talk. We're not going to be speaking unwholesomely because we don't want an explicit rating on our podcast.
No.
We might get more viewers that way.
Yeah.
Because you have FOMO
no.
and you don't want to miss out on the expletives.
What did she say?
She said FOMO. Put a little bar over my mouth whenever I know.
All I know is I heard snacks, so...
What's your favorite road trip snack?
All of them?
No.
Am I driving or am I riding?
Well, you're
Is it
riding.
hot or
You
is it
wouldn't
cold?
eat and drive, would you?
That's a thing? That's a bad thing? Corn nuts if I'm driving and trying to stay awake. So
Corn nuts if I'm driving and trying to stay awake. Do corn nuts keep you awake?
Yes.
Is it the crunch?
It is.
What if you're passengering?
Everything else.
Okay. I'd have to go a sweet of some kind.
Yeah, I tend to go back and forth.
This is irrelevant. No, I already said goodbye. Back in my
we sign off.
Back in my
and then the fire rekindles.
Back in my musician days, my pre-show ritual. You want to know what it was?
I do.
Because I was by myself and I didn't want to go anywhere, so I'd go to Subway.
So you were an introvert.
Yes.
Who didn't drink playing in bars.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
With creepy men.
Yeah.
Perfectly safe. I'd find whatever Subway.
The Lord was
around.
protecting you in these
I realized
days,
that.
So. This was before you were passionate for Christ.
Yes. One time I was at a bar and a guy who owned the bar, maybe 40 at the time, and I was 22. He lived above the bar too. Tall guy, long hair, beard.
How could this go wrong?
He goes, I was with other people at the time too, and he goes, hey, I had a Martin guitar. He goes, I really like your Martin. I thought, thanks. He goes, I got one upstairs. You want to go see it?
Has your mother heard this
You
story?
want to go see it?
She has now.
Anyway, my pre-show ritual was I go to Subway, I get a sweet onion chicken teriyaki sandwich.
That's a good sandwich.
Good sandwich. I'd have 2 Hostess cupcakes and a Diet Pepsi.
You had me up till the Diet Pepsi, right?
Anyway, comment with
clearly unregenerate.
Comment with your favorite road trip snack.
Just
if
kidding.
you made it this far in the podcast.
As you were drinking your Diet Pepsi, did you say you got the right one, baby? Too young for that. Ray Charles.
I remember
commercial,
that.
Diet Pepsi commercial.
My generation was when Britney Spears was doing the Pepsi commercials. That was big.
Did she do Diet Pepsi commercials or just a regular Pepsi?
I think they featured Diet Pepsi in there somewhere, but it was just Pepsi. For those who think young, that was the slogan.
Ah, yes.
Because Coke is for old people. And polar bears. We're going to stop there.
I will reserve comment.
We're going to stop there before this dumpster fire gets any worse.
Yeah. Shut the lid.
Thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week, as usual, if you enjoy this content. If you have any questions or comments,
and our apologies to all the Inuit people.
I really want, if you're an Eskimo, please email me. I want to be pen pals. I want to probably come live there one day.
Now I want an Eskimo pie.
Ooh.
We're all about the snacks.
We're all about the snacks, and I want to go see a polar bear drinking Coca-Cola.
Hungry.
Something hungry.
Something to snack about.
On April Fools, we should do that.
Yes.
And just have a buffet of snacks here.
This podcast could still be going by that time.
It might be. So. Feel free to email us with questions or comments. They can be as irrelevant as we are. somethingreal@reallifeonline.org.
That could be a challenge.
Or you can leave us a comment on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. We have a Twitter now, which I need to update more frequently. Or you can leave us a voicemail. If you listen to us with the Anchor app, you can leave a voicemail right on there, and we can integrate it into the podcast, which
My
is
daughter
cool.
just did a homework assignment with the Anchor app.
Really?
She was frustrated. I said, you should call Stacey.
Oh, she should.
She had it done by that time, of course. But...
Or you can leave us a voicemail at the church, which is 269-756-RLCC. And feel free to, rate us 5 stars.
Whether we deserve it or not. It's our
do it anyway.
Call it a participation
trophy. Anyway, because we're greedy. No. I think
but it does, in all seriousness, that does help us get the word out.
Whatever word it might be. Get some word out.
It will be a wholesome word next week for sure.
Yes,
but
not
anyway,
unwholesome.
It does affect the algorithms so that more people see this.
And hear it. Because it's a podcast.
Both in the UK and in the Arctic Circle.
Mostly in the UK.
Yeah.
Hello! I don't know what Eskimos.
And our UK listeners just keep on
do that every
dropping.
time.
They are signing out every time.
farewell, and thank you for listening.
We got issues.